The stars were wrong. Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise and stared at the display screen. The ship had been traveling for 3 weeks through empty space, mapping the dark zone between two spiral arms of the galaxy. This region was supposed to be empty. Nothing lived here. Nothing could live here. The cold was too deep, the darkness too complete. But something was out there. "Captain, I'm reading a solid object," Bo-Ra said from the navigation station. Her fingers moved across the glowing controls. "It's big, maybe 2 kilometers long." "A ship?" Jinwoo asked. "Maybe, or a station. It's hard to tell. The readings are strange." Jinwoo walked to her station and looked at the data. Bo-Ra was right. The object was massive, but it gave off almost no heat. No energy signature at all. Just a cold metal shell drifting in the void. "Take us closer," he said. "Slow approach." The Horizon's Promise was a small exploration vessel with a crew of 12. They were researchers, not soldiers. Their mission was to map unknown space and look for resources. They had found abandoned stations before, even old alien wrecks, but never this far out. Never in a place so cold and dead. As they got closer, the object took shape on the screen. It was definitely a ship, but unlike anything Jinwoo had ever seen. The hull was made of dark crystal that seemed to drink in the light. Strange symbols covered the surface, glowing faintly blue. The design was elegant and beautiful, but also wrong somehow. Alien in a way that made his skin crawl. "I'm not reading any life signs," said Hye-sun from the medical station. She was the ship's doctor, a calm woman with steady hands. "Whatever built this, they're long gone. Or sleeping," Taemin added. The engineer was young but brilliant with technology. "Some species use cold sleep for long journeys. Maybe they're still in there." Jinwoo made his decision. "Prepare a boarding team. Taemin, Hye-sun, you're with me. Bo-Ra, keep the ship ready in case we need to leave quickly." "Yes, Captain," Bo-Ra said. She didn't look happy about it. An hour later, Jinwoo led his team through the airlock and onto the alien vessel. Their suits protected them from the cold, but Jinwoo could still feel it. The temperature outside was near absolute zero. Nothing should work at these temperatures, yet somehow, the alien ship still held together. The interior was even stranger than the outside. The walls were made of the same dark crystal, smooth and cold. Thin lines of blue light ran through the floor like veins. The corridors were tall and narrow, built for beings much thinner than humans. "This way," Taemin said, checking his scanner. "I'm detecting a power source. Faint, but it's there." They followed the corridor deeper into the ship. Jinwoo's boots made soft sounds on the crystal floor. Everything was silent except for their breathing and the hum of their suit systems. The ship felt dead, but not empty. It felt like a tomb. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. Jinwoo stopped and stared. Hundreds of crystal chambers lined the walls from floor to ceiling. Each one was the size of a coffin, sealed with transparent crystal. Inside each chamber was a body. "Gods," Hye-sun whispered. The bodies were not human. They looked almost like people, but their skin was made of translucent crystal. Light flickered inside them like trapped stars. Or it had once. Most of the chambers were dark now, their occupants clearly dead. "A prison ship," Taemin said. "Or maybe a refugee vessel. They put themselves in cold sleep." "How long ago?" Jinwoo asked. Taemin scanned one of the dark chambers. "The crystal is degraded. The technology is old, very old. I'd guess thousands of years. Maybe more." Jinwoo walked between the rows of chambers, looking at the frozen faces. These beings had been people once. They had lives, families, hopes. Now they were just ice in the dark. Then Hye-sun called out, "Captain, over here!" Jinwoo ran to her position. She was standing in front of a chamber that still glowed with faint blue light. Inside was a female figure, smaller than the others. Her crystal skin was dark, almost black, but threads of light still moved through her body like slow lightning. "She's still alive," Hye-sun said, her voice full of wonder and fear. "Barely, but alive." Taemin scanned the chamber. The power cell is almost dead. She has maybe 6 hours before complete shutdown. Jinwoo looked at the woman in the chamber. Her face was peaceful, like she was sleeping. But she had been sleeping for thousands of years, alone in the dark, while everyone around her died. Can we wake her? He asked. I don't know, Taemin said honestly. I don't understand this technology. If we try to open the chamber, we might kill her. If we try to transfer power, we might kill her. If we do nothing, she dies anyway. What do you recommend? Leave her, Taemin said softly. I know it sounds cruel, but we can't help her. We don't know enough. Hee-sun nodded slowly. He's right, Captain. We could report this to the Research Council. Maybe they could send a team with better equipment. How long would that take? Jinwoo asked. 3 months, maybe 4. Jinwoo looked at the dying light inside the chamber. 3 months was too long. The woman wouldn't last 3 more days. By the time help arrived, she would be just another dark chamber in a tomb of ice. He thought about his own family back on Earth. If he was lost in the dark, frozen and alone, would he want someone to try? Even if the chance was small? Or would he want them to walk away and let him die in peace? No, he said. We're going to try. Captain, he soon started. That's an order. Taemin, start analyzing the chamber technology. Hye-sun, prepare the medical bay. We're taking her back to our ship. His crew exchanged worried looks, but they obeyed. They trusted Jinwoo, even when they thought he was wrong. It took 4 hours to carefully remove the chamber from the wall and transport it to the Horizon's Promise. They set it up in the medical bay and connected every scanner they had. Taemin worked through the alien systems, trying to understand how the chamber kept its occupant alive. But as the hours passed, the light inside grew dimmer. Jinwoo stood by the chamber and watched the woman die by inches. Her crystal skin grew darker. The light inside her slowed to almost nothing. The chamber's systems were failing one by one, and there was nothing they could do. I'm sorry, Hee-sun said quietly. We tried. Jinwoo put his hand on the cold crystal. The woman's face was so peaceful. She would never wake up. She would never know that someone had tried to save her. But he wasn't ready to give up yet. Not yet. The medical bay was cold. Taemin had connected the alien chamber to the ship's power, but it wasn't helping. The crystal coffin was designed for technology humans didn't understand, running on principles that made no sense. Try routing more power through the left connection, Jinwoo said. Taemin shook his head. I already tried. The chamber just rejects it. It's like trying to charge a battery with the wrong kind of electricity. The systems aren't compatible. Hye-sun checked her medical scanners again. Her life signs are dropping. I don't even know how to read most of this data, but the patterns are slowing down. She's dying. Jinwoo stared at the woman through the crystal. She was so still, so quiet. He didn't even know her name, didn't know what species she belonged to, or what her people called themselves. She was a complete stranger from a civilization that had died thousands of years ago. But he couldn't let her die. Not like this, not alone. There has to be something we can do, he said. Captain, we've tried everything, Taemin said gently. We've analyzed every system. We've tried to restart the chamber. We've tried power transfers. Nothing works. The technology is just too different from ours. Jinwoo knew Taemin was right. They had done everything they could with their equipment and knowledge. A proper research team with years of study might figure it out. But they didn't have years. They barely had hours. He looked at the chamber again. The blue light inside the woman's crystal body was now just a faint flicker, like a candle about to go out. Once that light died, she would be gone forever. Then Jinwoo noticed something. The chamber was cold, yes. But it wasn't frozen solid like the other chambers on the derelict ship. This one was still active, still trying to preserve its occupant. The problem was that it was running out of power. But what if it didn't need electrical power? What if it needed a different kind of energy? What was the temperature inside the chamber? Jinwoo asked suddenly. Taemin checked his scanner. -200 degrees, almost absolute zero. Why? And the other chambers, the dead ones? Completely frozen, -270 degrees. Jin Woo's mind raced. The living chamber was warmer than the dead ones. Not by much, but enough to matter. The woman inside was still alive because her chamber was still producing heat. Not much heat, but some. What if the chamber doesn't just need electricity, he said. What if it needs thermal energy, heat? Heesun frowned. But Captain, the chamber is designed to keep her cold. Adding heat would... Would it? Jinwoo interrupted. Or is the cold just a side effect? Maybe the chamber is supposed to keep her in balance. Not frozen, but not warm either. A perfect middle state. Taemin looked at the chamber with new eyes. That would make sense. A true stasis field would need energy to maintain. If the chamber runs out of power, the temperature drops too far and the person inside freezes to death. So if we add heat, we might restart the process, Jinwoo said. Maybe, Taemin said. But what kind of heat? We can't just blast it with a heater. We'd cook her. Jinwoo made a decision that he knew was insane, but it was the only option left. Taemin, open the chamber, he said. Both his crew members stared at him. Captain, if we open it, she'll die for sure, Heesun said. If we don't open it, she dies anyway. At least this way we can try something. Jinwoo was already moving, grabbing an emergency thermal suit from the wall locker. The suit was designed for extreme cold environments. It would keep him alive in temperatures near absolute zero, but not for long. What are you doing? Taemin asked. I'm going to give her what the chamber can't anymore. Body heat. Living warmth. Jinwoo pulled on the suit and activated the heating elements. Open the chamber when I'm ready. This is crazy, Heesun said. You'll freeze to death. Not if we're quick. Taemin, as soon as I'm inside, you monitor the chamber's systems. If anything changes, if any power comes back, seal it again immediately. And if nothing changes? Taemin asked quietly. Then you pull me out before I turn into ice. Jinwoo sealed the thermal suit and nodded. Taemin hesitated, then activated the chamber controls. The crystal front slowly opened with a hiss of escaping cold air. Frost immediately formed on every surface in the medical bay. Jinwoo didn't hesitate. He climbed into the chamber and wrapped his arms around the crystal woman. She was cold beyond anything he had ever felt. Even through the thermal suit, the cold bit into him like teeth. His suit's heating elements struggled against the impossible temperature. The woman's body felt fragile, like glass that might shatter. Jinwoo held her gently, trying to share his warmth. He could see the faint light inside her, so dim now it was almost gone. Come on, he whispered. Don't give up. Stay with us. The suit's warning alarms started going off, temperature dropping, power cells draining fast. Jinwoo ignored them. He focused on the woman in his arms, willing her to live. Then something strange happened. The light inside her flickered. Just a tiny pulse, but it was there. Captain, Taemin shouted. I'm reading something. The chamber's energy signature just changed. Jinwoo held on tighter. The cold was terrible now. His fingers were going numb. The suit's heating system was failing. But the woman's light pulsed again, stronger this time. It's working, Heesun said, her voice filled with amazement. Her life signs are strengthening. The light inside the crystal woman began to glow brighter. Warmth spread through her body, responding to the warmth Jinwoo was giving her. The chamber's systems began to activate one by one, drawing power not from the ship's electricity, but from something else. Something the sensors couldn't measure. Jinwoo's suit died completely. The cold hit him like a hammer. His whole body started shaking. His vision blurred. Get him out! Heesun screamed. Hands grabbed Jinwoo and pulled him from the chamber. He fell to the floor, his body shaking violently. Heesun covered him with thermal blankets while Taemin sealed the chamber. Through his blurred vision, Jinwoo saw the chamber's light blazing bright blue. The woman inside was glowing like a star. Her eyes opened for just a moment, and Jinwoo saw them clearly. They were like galaxies, filled with colors he had no names for. Then everything went dark. Jinwoo woke up hours later in his quarters. His body ached like he'd been beaten. He soon was sitting next to his bed, monitoring his vital signs. How do you feel? She asked. Like I hugged an iceberg, Jinwoo said. His voice was rough. Did it work? Heesun smiled. Yes, Captain. It worked. She's alive and stable. The chamber is running on its own power now, stronger than before. We still don't understand how, but it's working. Can she hear us? Is she awake? Not yet, but I think she will be soon. Whatever you did, you saved her life. Heesun paused. You almost died, Captain. Your body temperature dropped to dangerous levels. Another minute in that chamber and we would have lost you. Jinwoo nodded slowly. He had known the risk, but some things were worth the risk. I need to see her, he said, trying to sit up. Not yet. You need rest. Doctor's orders. Heesun pushed him gently back down. She's not going anywhere, and when she wakes up, I think she'll want to meet the man who refused to let her die. Jinwoo lay back and closed his eyes. He had saved a life today. A stranger from a dead civilization, someone he knew nothing about. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe it was dangerous. But it was the right thing to do. And that was enough. The first thing Yuri felt was warmth. It was a strange sensation after so long in the cold. The warmth flowed through her crystal body like liquid light, chasing away the ice that had claimed her for thousands of years. She tried to remember how she had gotten here, but her memories were confused and broken. The war. She remembered the war. The Vethkar had come from the dark spaces between galaxies. They consumed everything in their path, turning whole worlds into frozen tombs. The Velkari had fought them for centuries, but in the end, there were too many, too strong. Her people had made a choice. Rather than let the Vethkar destroy them completely, they would sleep. They would wait in the cold and dark until the enemy was gone, until it was safe to wake again. But something had gone wrong. Yuri could feel it. She was alone. The other Velkari were gone. The familiar hum of their shared consciousness was silent. She opened her eyes. The ceiling above her was made of white metal, not crystal. Strange lights glowed along the walls. The air smelled wrong, tasted wrong. This wasn't a Velkari ship. Panic seized her. Where was she? Who had taken her? Easy, a voice said. You're safe, don't try to move too quickly. Yuri turned her head and saw a creature sitting beside her chamber. It was small and soft-looking, with skin like pale leather and dark hair. Two eyes watched her with concern. The creature smiled, showing flat white teeth. An animal? No, the eyes were too intelligent. This was a sentient being. But what species? Can you understand me? The creature asked. It spoke in a language Yuri didn't recognize, but somehow the meaning became clear in her mind. The chamber must have translation systems still working. Yes, Yuri said. Her voice came out weak and strange. Where am I? Who are you? My name is Hyesun. You're aboard a human ship called the Horizon's Promise. We found you 3 days ago in an old Velkari vessel. You were dying, so we brought you here. Human. The word meant nothing to Yuri. She had never heard of this species. What happened to my people? The other Velkari? Hyesun's face became sad. I'm sorry. The others on the ship were already dead. You were the only one still alive. The words hit Yuri like a physical blow. Dead. All of them dead. She had suspected it when she woke alone, but hearing it confirmed made it real. How long? She asked. How long was I in stasis? We're not completely sure. But based on the decay of your ship's systems, we think it's been at least 3,000 years. 3,000 years. The number was too big to understand. 3,000 years of darkness and ice while the universe moved on without her. The Vethkar? Yuri asked. Did they win? We don't know what the Vethkar are, Hyesun said gently. If they were enemies of your people, they're long gone now. There's been no sign of them for as long as humans have been exploring space. Gone. The Velkari were gone. The Vethkar were gone. Everything Yuri had known was dust and memory. She felt her light dimming with despair. What was the point of waking up if everyone was dead? If her entire civilization was extinct? Then the door opened and a male human entered. He was taller than Hyesun, with broad shoulders and kind eyes. He moved carefully, like his body was still healing from an injury. Captain Jinwoo, Hyesun said. You should be resting. I wanted to see if she was awake, the male said. He looked at Yuri and smiled. Hello, I'm glad you made it. Yuri stared at him. There was something familiar about this human, though she had never seen him before. A warmth that reminded her of something. You were there, she said slowly. The memory was coming back. In the chamber, in the cold. You held me. Jinwoo nodded. Yes. We couldn't get the chamber systems to work, so I tried to give you what I could. Body heat. I hoped it might help. You could have died, Yuri said. Why would you risk yourself for a stranger? Jinwoo looked surprised by the question. Because you needed help. And because it was the right thing to do. Yuri studied him. In her time, such behavior would have been considered foolish. The great powers of the galaxy were logical, efficient. They didn't risk valuable lives for unknown aliens with no clear benefit. The Kalrix Collective would have studied her chamber as a curiosity. The Teth Communion would have calculated the odds of success and determined the attempt wasteful. But this human had tried anyway. Not because it made sense, but because it was right. What happened to the galaxy? Yuri asked. Everything is different. Where are the Kalrix? The Teth? I don't recognize those names, Jinwoo said, but many civilizations have risen and fallen over 3,000 years. The galaxy is run by the Galactic Council now. Dozens of species working together. Working together? Yuri was shocked. That's impossible. The major powers would never cooperate. They competed for everything. Maybe in your time, he soon said, but things change. Species learned that cooperation was better than constant war. Over the next few days, Jinwoo and his crew taught Yuri about the modern galaxy. She learned about the council, about trade and diplomacy, about species that didn't exist in her time. She learned about humans, the newest members of the galactic community. Humans were strange. They were emotional and impulsive, driven by feelings more than logic. They formed deep bonds with each other and even with aliens. They created art and music for no practical purpose, just because it made them happy. Jinwoo visited Yuri every day. He brought her things from Earth, trying to help her understand human culture. He showed her recordings of music, images of their homeworld, samples of their food. Yuri couldn't eat human food, but she appreciated the gesture. Why do you do this? She asked him one day. Spend time with me? You have duties as captain. Because you're alone, Jinwoo said simply. You woke up in a universe where everything you knew is gone. That must be terrifying. I want you to know that you're not completely alone. You have friends now. Friends? Another strange human concept. The Velkari had worked together, shared consciousness, but they hadn't had friends in the way Jinwoo meant it. His friendship was personal, warm, given freely without expecting anything in return. Yuri felt her light growing brighter. The despair that had gripped her when she first woke was fading, replaced by something she hadn't felt in 3,000 years. Hope. Tell me about Earth, she said. Your homeworld. Jinwoo's face lit up. He pulled up images on his datapad and showed her. Blue oceans, green forests, cities of glass and steel. Billions of humans living together in organized chaos. It's beautiful, Yuri said. Warm. You should visit someday, Jinwoo said. See it for yourself. I would like that, Yuri said. And she realized she meant it. Bora visited too, showing Yuri star charts and explaining how much the galaxy had changed. Taemin brought her technical manuals, helping her understand modern technology. They were all so kind, so patient with her questions. Yuri began to understand something important. In her time, the galaxy had been cold and competitive. Species viewed each other as rivals or resources. Compassion was weakness. Emotion was inefficient. But humans had changed that. They brought warmth to the galaxy, not just physical warmth, but emotional warmth. They cared about strangers. They helped without asking for payment. They risked their lives because it was right. If any other species had found Yuri's frozen chamber, they would have left her or turned her over to researchers. Only humans would have tried to save her at any cost. Jinwoo, Yuri said one evening. He was showing her more Earth music, something called a symphony. Thank you. For everything. For saving me. For giving me a reason to live again. Jinwoo looked at her with those kind eyes. You don't need to thank me, Yuri. You're part of our crew now. Part of our family. Family, yes. That was what this felt like. Not just friendship, but belonging. Yuri's light glowed bright and warm. She was beginning to understand humans. And she was beginning to understand that being saved by them was the best thing that could have happened to her. The universe had changed. Her people were gone. But maybe, just maybe, that meant she could build something new, with humans at her side. The warning came in the middle of the night. Ship time. Yuri was resting in her chamber when the alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed through the corridors. She heard crew members running, shouting orders. Something was wrong. Jinwoo burst into the medical bay, his face tight with worry. Yuri, we have a problem. A big one. What's happening? When we activated your chamber, it sent out a signal. We didn't know because the technology was so old. But something received that signal. Something's coming. Yuri felt ice form in her core. Show me. They rushed to the bridge. The main screen showed long-range sensor data. 6 massive ships were emerging from dark space, moving toward their position. The ships were black as void, their hulls seeming to absorb all light. Yuri recognized the design immediately. Vethkar, she whispered. They're alive. They survived. Bora turned from her navigation console. You know these ships? They're the enemy that destroyed my people. They're hunters. When we went into stasis, we set the chambers to act as warning beacons. If any Velkari survived, the signal would guide them to us. But it would also alert the Vethkar. They've been waiting all this time for any sign we might return. They waited 3,000 years? Timon asked, disbelief in his voice. They're patient, and they never forget. Yuri studied the sensor data. These aren't just ships. They're death. They won't just destroy your vessel. They'll follow you home. They'll find Earth and every other human world. They'll erase your species completely. Jinwoo's jaw tightened. Then we need to warn the Council. Get help. The Horizon's Promise jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing toward the nearest Council station. Yuri spent the journey explaining everything she knew about the Vethkar. They were old, older than the Velkari. They came from the spaces between galaxies, from regions of absolute cold and darkness. They didn't conquer worlds or take resources. They simply erased everything, returning systems to frozen void. Why? Hee-sun asked. What do they want? Nothing, Yuri said. That's what makes them so terrible. They don't want anything. They just exist to spread cold and darkness. Life is an offense to them. Warmth is an offense. They won't stop until everything is frozen and silent. The council station was called Unity Point, a massive structure where representatives from dozens of species met. Jinwoo requested an emergency session. Within hours, they stood before the council chamber with Yuri beside them. The council was made up of many alien species. The insectoid Kral, the energy beings called Fotori, the aquatic melon, and many others. They listened as Jinwoo explained the situation. We encountered an ancient Velkari in stasis, Jinwoo said. We revived her. But doing so triggered a beacon that has awakened an ancient threat. The Vethkar are coming. A Kral representative clicked its mandibles. The Velkari are extinct. Ancient history. Why should we believe this threat is real? Yuri stepped forward. The council members stared at her crystal form. Some had probably never seen a Velkari before. Because I saw my entire civilization fall to them, Yuri said. Because I know their tactics, their weapons, their nature. They're not like your enemies. They don't want territory or resources. They want oblivion. And they're coming. The council erupted in argument. Some species wanted to prepare defenses. Others claimed it was a human trick to gain military power. A few suggested simply surrendering Yuri to the Vethkar to appease them. Absolutely not, Jinwoo said loudly. The chamber fell silent. A human captain didn't usually speak so forcefully to the council. Yuri is under human protection. We will not abandon her. Even if it costs human lives? asked a Futuri representative, its form pulsing with light. Even if it brings war to your worlds? Yes, Jinwoo said, without hesitation. Because that's what humans do. We don't abandon people who need our help, not even if it's dangerous, not even if it costs us. The council voted. It was close, but in the end, they agreed to mobilize a defense fleet. But many species held back their strongest ships. They were hedging their bets, preparing to negotiate with the Vethkar if the battle went badly. Only humanity committed everything they had. Back on the Horizon's Promise, Yuri found Jinwoo alone in his quarters. He was looking at images of Earth, his home world. You shouldn't have done that, Yuri said quietly. Shouldn't have committed your people to this fight. It's my fault the Vethkar are coming. No, Jinwoo said firmly. You didn't ask to be saved. We chose to save you, and I don't regret it for a second. But your people will die because of me. Jinwoo turned to look at her. Maybe. Or maybe they'll live because you're here to help us fight. You know the Vethkar better than anyone. You're not a burden, Yuri. You're hope. Hope. Humans and their impossible optimism. The human fleet gathered at the edge of their territory. 30 ships, not many compared to the great powers, but the humans came ready to fight. Jinwoo was given command of a battle group. Yuri served as his chief advisor. As they prepared for battle, a human soldier named Dae-young was assigned as Yuri's bodyguard. He was young, barely out of training, but he took his job seriously. Why do you humans do this? Yuri asked him one day. You know the Vethkar might win. You might all die. Why not just give me up and save yourselves? Dae-young looked at her like she'd asked why water was wet. Because you're one of us now. Humans don't abandon each other, and we don't abandon our friends. I'm not human. Doesn't matter. You're part of the crew. That makes you family. Family. That word again. Humans used it so easily, extending it to include anyone they cared about. Yuri made a decision then. She went to Jinwoo's quarters late that night. I'm going to turn myself in, she said, to the Vethkar. Maybe if I surrender, they'll leave humanity alone. No, Jinwoo said immediately. You can't stop me. You're right. I can't force you to stay. But I'm asking you to think about what that would mean. Jinwoo stood and walked to her. We didn't save you just so you could throw your life away. We saved you because you deserve to live. Because everyone deserves a chance. If you surrender now, you're saying our choice was wrong. You're saying human compassion is weakness. Isn't it? Yuri asked. You're about to fight a war you might lose, all because you helped a stranger. And I'd do it again, Jinwoo said. Every time. Because that's what separates us from the Vethkar. They see life as something to destroy. We see it as something worth protecting, even when it's hard. Even when it costs us. Yuri felt something shift inside her. Her whole life, she had been taught that survival was what mattered, that logic and efficiency were supreme. But humans had a different philosophy. They believed some things were worth dying for. I don't know if I'm worth a war, she said quietly. You are to us, Jinwoo replied. And more than that, you're the key to winning. You know the Vethkar. You know how they fight. With your help, we have a chance. Dae-young found Yuri later, staring out at the stars. Still thinking about surrendering? He asked. How did you know? It's what I'd be thinking, trying to save everyone else. Dae-young leaned against the wall. But here's the thing. You didn't ask to be saved. We chose to save you. Don't insult our choice by throwing it away. We knew the risks. We made our decision. Honor it by fighting with us. Yuri looked at this young human who was willing to die to protect her. You're very wise for someone so young. Not wise. Just human. Dae-young smiled. We're stubborn like that. The Vethkar fleet arrived 2 days later. 6 massive ships against humanity's 30 smaller vessels and a handful of reluctant council allies. The battle was about to begin. The Vethkar ships moved like shadows through space. They didn't rush forward and attack. They simply advanced, slow and patient, as inevitable as death itself. Yuri stood on the bridge of Jinwoo's command ship, watching the enemy approach. She had seen these vessels before, 3,000 years ago, when they had destroyed her civilization. They looked exactly the same. Timeless. Unchanging. patient. What can you tell us about their weapons? Jinwoo asked. Yuri called up old battle data from her memory, translating it to the human systems. They use entropy weapons, beams that drain all energy from their targets. Your ships will freeze solid in seconds. Your crew will die before they even feel the cold. They also have void bombs that spread absolute zero across entire regions of space. How did your people fight them? We used energy shields and heat-based weapons. Plasma, fusion bombs, anything that generated intense heat. But the Vethkar just absorbed it all. Every weapon we used made them stronger. We lost because we fought them with the wrong tools. Taemin frowned. If energy weapons don't work, what does? Yuri was about to say nothing, that the Vethkar were unbeatable. But then she stopped. Her people had tried to fight cold with heat, darkness with light. They had matched energy against energy. But there was something the Velkari had never tried. Something they didn't have. Emotion. Life. The stubborn, illogical warmth that made humans who they were. I have an idea, Yuri said slowly, but it's strange. I don't know if it will work. Tell us, Jinwoo said. Yuri explained her theory. The Vethkar were beings of absolute cold and void. They existed in the absence of energy, the absence of life. They were drawn to warmth and life because it was the opposite of what they were, an offense to their very nature. But what if warmth wasn't a weapon to be fired, but a presence to be endured? What if, instead of trying to destroy the Vethkar with heat, they simply made the battlefield too warm for them to tolerate? We need to flood the battle zone with thermal radiation, Yuri said. Not focused weapons, but broad-spectrum heat. Make the entire region so warm that the Vethkar can't function. We don't have weapons like that, Bora said. No, Taemin said, his eyes lighting up with understanding. But we have thermal generators. Every ship has heating systems for the crew quarters. Life support, engine cooling systems that vent heat. What if we overload them all? Turn our ships into giant space heaters. Jinwoo nodded slowly. It might work, but there's something else. He looked at Yuri. You said the Vethkar are offended by warmth and life. What if we give them more than physical heat? What if we give them something they've never encountered before? What? Yuri asked. Humanity. Jinwoo's plan was insane, but that seemed to be normal for humans. He ordered every ship in the fleet to overload their thermal systems. They would vent heat in every direction, turning the battlefield into a hot zone. But more than that, he had Yuri transmit something the Vethkar had never experienced. Emotion. Yuri was a Valkyrie, a crystal being capable of broadcasting empathic energy. In her time, her people had used this ability to coordinate in battle, sharing tactical data through feeling rather than words. But Yuri had lived with humans now. She had felt their warmth, their compassion, their stubborn refusal to give up. She could share that with the Vethkar. The battle began. The Vethkar fired their entropy weapons. The first wave of council ships froze solid and went dark, their crews dead in an instant. The council ships returned fire with energy weapons, but just as Yuri had warned, the Vethkar absorbed the energy and grew stronger. Then, the human ships advanced. They didn't fire weapons. Instead, they activated every thermal system they had. Heat vented from 1,000 ports. The temperature in the battle zone began to rise. The Vethkar ships slowed, confused by this strange tactic. Now, Yuri, Jinwoo said. Yuri closed her eyes and reached out with her empathic sense. She touched the minds of every human in the fleet. She felt their fear, yes, but also their courage. Their love for each other. Their determination to protect the innocent. Their warmth. And she broadcast it all toward the Vethkar. The effect was immediate. The Vethkar ships shuddered. These beings had existed for eons in cold, empty silence. They had never felt emotion before. Never experienced warmth, not just physical heat, but the warmth of living, feeling, caring beings. It was agony to them. Yuri reached deeper, pulling memories from the humans around her. She broadcast the feeling of Jinwoo holding her in the frozen chamber, refusing to let her die. The sensation of Heesun's kind patience. Dae Young's fierce loyalty, Bo-Ra's gentle friendship, the warmth of human connection, human love, human hope. The Vethkar couldn't process it. Their cold, logical minds tried to categorize the sensation, tried to drain it away like energy. But emotion wasn't energy. It couldn't be absorbed or redirected. It simply was. One of the Vethkar ships began to retreat. "They're running," Bo-Ra shouted. "Press the attack," Jinwoo ordered. "More heat. Everything you have." The human ships pushed forward, their thermal systems running at dangerous levels. The space around them glowed with infrared radiation. And Yuri kept broadcasting, sharing the warmth of humanity with an enemy that had never known anything but cold. The Vethkar fleet broke. It wasn't a military defeat. It was something more fundamental. They simply couldn't exist in a space so filled with warmth and life and feeling. They retreated back into dark space, back to the cold void where they belonged. The battle was over. Humanity had won. The fleet returned to Unity Point as heroes. The council species who had doubted now celebrated. Some of them felt ashamed that they had hesitated while humans had risked everything. But Jinwoo didn't care about glory. As soon as the ship docked, he went to find Yuri. She was in the medical bay, exhausted from the empathic broadcast. Using her abilities so intensely had drained her, but she was smiling. "We did it," she said, as Jinwoo entered. "We actually did it." "You did it," Jinwoo corrected. "Your plan, your abilities. We just provided the warmth." "No," Yuri said. "I provided the technique, but the warmth, the hope, the stubborn refusal to give up, that was all human. That's what defeated them. The Vethkar are creatures of cold logic and empty void. They can handle weapons and energy, but they can't handle humanity." Jinwoo sat beside her. "What will you do now? The council has offered to help search for other Velkari survivors. There might be more chambers out there." Yuri considered this. A week ago, she would have jumped at the chance, the possibility of finding her people, of not being alone. But now she realized something important. "I'm not alone," she said. "I have a family, a home. Here, with humans." "You're sure? We could help you search. It's what friends do." "I know. And maybe someday I will search, but not yet." Yuri's light glowed warm and bright. "I spent 3,000 years frozen in the dark, Jinwoo. I don't want to spend my time awake looking backward. I want to look forward. I want to see what the future holds." "Then stay with us," Jinwoo said. "Be part of the crew. We're heading to Earth next. You should see it. See where we come from." "I'd like that very much." 3 months later, Yuri stood on Earth for the first time. She felt the sun on her crystal skin, real sunlight from a living star. It was warm and bright and beautiful. Jinwoo stood beside her on the hill overlooking the ocean. Hee-soon and Bo-Ra were there too, along with Dae Young and Taemin and the rest of the crew. They had become more than colleagues. They had become her family. "What do you think?" Jinwoo asked. Yuri watched the waves roll onto the beach. She felt the warm breeze. She heard children playing in the distance, their laughter bright and alive. So different from the cold silence she had known for so long. "I think," she said slowly, "that I understand now why you saved me. Why you risked everything." "Why?" "Because this is what you're protecting. Not just your world or your species, but this. Life, warmth, hope, the belief that tomorrow can be better than today." Yuri turned to look at Jinwoo. "My people were so focused on surviving that we forgot to live. We became cold and logical, just like our enemy. But humans never forgot. Even in the dark, you hold on to your warmth. And now you're part of that," Jinwoo said. "You're not frozen anymore, Yuri. You're free. You're alive. What you do with that is up to you." Yuri looked out at the ocean again. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors she had no names for. Orange and pink and gold. Warm colors. Living colors. "I know what I want to do," she said. "I want to help. There are other ancient threats out there, other dangers humanity doesn't know about. I can teach you. I can share what I know. And maybe, together, we can make sure the galaxy stays warm and alive." "Together," Jinwoo agreed. He held out his hand, a human gesture of friendship and partnership. Yuri took it. His hand was warm, so wonderfully warm. A reminder that she would never be cold again, never be alone, never be frozen in endless night. Because she had found something her people had never had. Something the Vethkar could never understand. She had found humanity, and in their warmth, she had found her home.